Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 13th of May, comes to you from London. And a sea of red on the screen this morning. Equity markets are starting to fall quite heavily. And so the big question is this the beginning of a bigger sell-off, or is it just a correction? So let's take a look. First of all, just looking at the currencies, the dollar is recovering slightly. So short term, it's bullish. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart. Long term, medium term, and short term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. And here we're bearish below the cloud when we're below the cloud, and we're bullish when we're above. So we've recovered to short term bullish, although the long term picture for the dollar is, will we hold this bottom? That's the key. That means the euro has fallen back against that strengthening dollar. So we're sitting at the 120.80 level. Maybe just finding some resistance here on the cloud. And if we look at sterling, we're holding the 140 mark. But we are weakening against that stronger dollar this morning. So we are just seeing still bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. Targets to the mid 140s. 146 is a pretty likely target with multiple targets in that direction on these charts. We have got 150 as a long-term target. So sterling looking strong there. Against the euro, holding the 116 mark. Finding support on the cloud there as well. Bullish on all three time frames. Sterling is looking better again with upside targets there to play for. If you're trading currencies, of course, keep an eye on the shorter 1 minute charts as well. Bitcoin had a sell-off yesterday with Elon Musk announcing that they wouldn't accept Bitcoin at Tesla anymore. Not enough to activate this downside target here. So if we go lower than the low that we saw, that will activate a downside target to $29,000, $30,000. So that would be significant, but we're holding that low at the moment. Of course, the main news is markets, and we see the S&P 500 index falling away short term, and that is now putting us in a short-term bearish position. We're holding the trends on the medium-term charts. This will give us a thrust target to the downside. We can place a target on there now if we want, but we might as well wait and see that column finish. The bigger news is tech, and we see tech now just falling below the cloud on that daily chart. If we hold this for a few more days and go lower, then that is the first time we will have seen a sell-off since the 2020 sell-off on the daily chart. So really just looking at an increasingly bearish picture there. Downside potential of 6%, so that's really significant, and that's going to be quite key. Looking at the futures markets, looking like we'll go lower still today. We're down 0.5% on the S&P future, down 0.5% on the Nasdaq E-mini, and again that daily chart just starting to wander below the cloud. When we went below the cloud in March with prices, that wasn't enough to pull the lagging line below the cloud, but this time it will. So again, downside to potential here on the future of about 8%. So it's looking like we've got a further sell-off potential, and of course we will see these targets producing downside targets as well. If you're trading equities shorter term, keep an eye on the 1 minute charts on the indices on your point and figure targets. And the VIX volatility has leapt, of course. We're up into the high 20s again for the first time since the beginning of March when we had that last sell-off. And so we are seeing the fear index climbing. A very big week for the VIX there in that weekly candle. We still are at levels that we wouldn't have worried about over the past year, but these are historically high levels if we go back further. So the VIX looking worrying there. The FTSE future down 2.5% this morning. That tanking away there. And if we look at the DAX in Germany, we're down 2% on the future and on the market. So looking worrying there on the short-term chart. 3% is the downside target there, 6% on the medium-term chart. And if we look at the CAC Quarante, that's down just under 2%, a 3% downside potential there as well. Japan sold off as well, down 1.4%. And if we look at that, and that's turned bearish on the medium-term chart. When we look at the Hang Seng, that's down 2%. That's also bearish on that medium-term daily chart. And China down 1%. Actually has been bearish for a little while below the cloud there on the short and medium-term chart, but we still do have strong upside targets on the long term. The Indian market also down 0.5%, actually looking stronger despite all the coronavirus news there. It's bucked the trend in global markets and down just 0.5%, and the Aussie market actually down just 1%. Heavily resource-laden stocks in the Aussie market, and resource stocks probably just faring better. A lot of this is tech driven, of course, in the US, as we've seen. Taking a look at the commodities, we've got wheat down 0.2% and corn down 1.2%, just falling back on the softs, but they have been incredibly strong lately. Gold sitting at 1814, not really a beneficiary at the moment of the sell-off. Normally this is a risk-on trade, hitting some resistance on the lagging line on the medium term there, but the short-term chart's just wandering lower. There is a little bit of a sell everything mentality going on at the moment. We are seeing targets to around 1900 there on the short-term chart, and we will get thrust targets off these lows as well. New lows for gold would be bad, but we're quite some way from making that. And silver just pulling back, looking like an ascending triangle breakout potential long term, but we're just not seeing that at the moment. Taking a look at future at the yields, US 10-year yields bullish above the cloud, sitting at 1.7%. If we go higher than the previous high, we deactivate the downside risk. We still have this big target, 183, then 3.3%. 173, 174 is multiple targets to that direction. A new one here on the short-term chart to 188 if we activate that. It's all upside targets for bond yields, really. And we look at the 30-year bond, much the same picture, of course. Just taking a look at the German bond, I did post on LinkedIn saying 170 was the critical level. We're through that now. This is breaking a long-term trend. If we hold this for a week or two, this is really starting to be showing the end of the bond market. So that's significant, and that is having a big impact on equities, of course. Inflation fears coming through. Apple bearish below the cloud on both the daily, rolling around under the cloud there, really quite clearly bearish on the medium term. Amazon also lower, despite amazing results this year. Amazon actually breaking lower. Google now selling off. They were looking good, but they've had a bad week. Microsoft, much the same picture. If we take a look at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude down 2.3%, just showing how market sentiment is really having an effect. This target of 68 on the 1-minute chart was met. If we look at US nat gas, that's holding up at 297. This is roll adjusted, of course, but we're seeing here we do still have upside targets, and we're holding on, but of course we are being held back. Bob gasoline was likely to be affected by the pipeline situation, but we're seeing a sell-off with that negative sentiment. Coal also down 1.5%, still looking pretty strong. We were bullish on coal this week. And also emissions lower, 3.5% lower. No surprise that we got a big sell-off really with that sentiment. We've got lots of support, but that support is back at the sort of low 50s area, and we do have a downside target to 50.90 there. If you're trading emissions, play around with these box sizes to get the targets. We're seeing a sell-off also in gas markets this morning, down 3% on MBP, down 4% on TTF. Sentiment weighing heavily. Again, on your OTC trades, keep an eye on those targets to the downside. And German power, we're seeing a sell-off here, down 2.3%. The 1-minute chart, we do have 63.10. We vary our box side. We get 63.10 is looking like the target. Keep an eye on those 1-minute charts. The price action will give you the targets. We're also seeing Nordic power bucking the trend, in fact, just up 2% on both the CAL and the quarterly. That's it for today. Keep an eye on those 1-minute point and figure targets. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.